So I'm going to pass the mic to you, Ryan. If you guys could just say a little bit about your own journey, how you got into your role, the sort of journey you've been on, any lessons learned, and so on, and then we'll take it from there.
Hi everyone. So I've only ever worked in IT. Went to college, did a college course, started working in IT. I've been in the industry for 20 years now. Currently work at Microsoft as what they call an Azure specialist, which is a technical and commercial role. But basically, when I went to college, I had a choice, and I'm quite a big petrol head, and I love cars and all that stuff, and I wanted to be a mechanic. But I also really like computers from playing computer games and doing all that kind of stuff at home. So I was at this crossroads of, do I go into mechanics or computers? Decided to go into computers because, it was an up-and-coming industry 20 odd years ago. And I did like what was called a BTEC in IT. So it was like a 3A level equivalent. And I really enjoyed it. It gave me like really good kind of fundamentals and basics of like, what a byte is versus a megabyte and everything else, and how networking works and all that kind of stuff. From there, I decided to go to university. Started at University of Sussex. Wasn't for me, if I'm honest. I dropped out after 3 months just because I wanted to work. I wanted to earn money. So I got my first kind of IT job at a place called Plumpton College, which is kind of local to Agricultural College, as a first line kind of support engineer. So kind of knew how to work computers, but didn't know how to interact with people or anything like that. So I was kind of in the college fixing printers. Students were coming in and I was helping them, get on their way and move from there. From there, I kind of moved into more of the corporate world, worked for a pharmaceutical company doing Windows and Linux kind of support, so second line support at that point. That took me to work in America for 3 years in their kind of American division, which was quite cool, good experience. From then, I kind of moved more into what they call the partner landscape, so IT services in the local area. Moved into a third line support role, so still fixing stuff, but less printers and computers, more servers, switches, firewalls, more of that kind of enterprise stuff, and really enjoyed it and gave me kind of a good well-rounded experience. And I stayed in the partner world for probably about 10 years, moving more into the implementation space. So I became a consultant from there, so actually doing the installation of switches and things like that, and then into architecture, so designing and writing documents effectively for people to go and implement things from there. So yeah, that was the bulk of my IT career. And then I decided to apply for a job at Microsoft. For me, Microsoft was like the end of the rainbow. I've always kind of deployed their products. I always wanted to work there throughout my career. Managed to make the leap, and now I kind of work there originally as a cloud architect, but now I've moved into more of a technical sales role. So wanted a new challenge, did a lot of the kind of tech implementation stuff for a while, and now I'm here doing that. So yeah, feel free to quiz me in terms of what went wrong, what went right, what the recruitment process was like, and that's kind of who I am now. So I'll pass the mic over.
Thank you. Hi all, I'm Emma, and it's lovely to meet you. So my career journey started in banking. So I didn't decide to go to university. I got a place, but after getting it, thought it wasn't for me, and didn't want to go and make the investment in that. So always enjoyed finance. So that's where my career began. So I was on the retail side of things, so a customer service representative. Lucky to work for a bank that really wanted to develop their people and upskill them. So worked through various roles through to assistant store manager, and then really liked working with business customers, which led me into a business management position. So there it was all about building those customer relationships and supporting them on their journeys. So that had been about 7 years actually in banking. I was really enjoying it. Lucky again to work with an employer that was always about what's next for you. And I think it was taking that time to sit and think about that. I was like, what is next for me? Looking at the role and what was involved in that, I didn't know if I fully was going to enjoy that. I was quite loyal to my employer as well. I didn't want to go to another bank. And it leaves you quite panicked because you kind of built up your beginning of your career somewhere in one industry. Didn't really know what to do at this point. Again, just started to think, I'm sure you've all done it when you go and have a little look on Indeed. Again, sometimes quite a daunting process because you're looking at all the roles out there, and then you take away your industry that you're potentially not looking in because you're looking for that new challenge. And then you also have the entry level requirements of a degree, and you kind of come away being like, why did I do that? Why did I search for this? So I guess that was quite an interesting crossroads that I came to, but again, wanted to be proactive about that. So started to do some research in my own time, what was out there. And it just so happened I actually went for a coffee with a friend and was just sitting and talking about how I was feeling and what I was considering. And interestingly, she said, I actually think I know someone that is hiring at the moment and you might be a good fit for the role. So that was when I was then introduced to my now boss. Starting that journey, he explained a little bit about the role to me. I think I came away from that initial conversation. I was like, why would they want to consider me? A bit of self-doubt. I'm not technical. I'm going to hold my hands up and say that. Obviously, I'll explain a little bit about my role in a second. But this was my first experience to that kind of industry and the tech community. I went through the interview process and was getting more and more excited about what the role could involve. Again, as I explained earlier, my passion really was helping business customers. I didn't lose that. I really enjoyed doing that, and be able to work with businesses to get the most value out of something that at the time was banking solutions. Now it's cloud solutions. So I was lucky to be offered the job. It was a massive leap for me to decide to leave banking. That was kind of my comfort blanket. But I'm so glad I made that choice. A year in now, so I work as a customer success manager. So originally transitioned in as a business manager, which is quite similar to what I was doing in banking. But again, as Dan was explaining earlier, the company that I was interviewed by was really looking for those transferable skills, which was relationship management, communication, and teamwork. And they really stressed that to me. They said, we could teach you tech. That's, I think, a very big thing to say because it's quite hard in terms of how much is out there. But I think being around the right people and the support, the community group, as in the Cloud Brighton group, has actually been a massive help for me because it's a remote first company that I work for. So meeting people face to face and being able to talk to people about what's going on and ask questions is really, really helpful. So I'm now a customer success manager. So what I do is onboard customers, help them on their sales journeys and make sure they're getting the right value and benefit out of cloud. I think my passion for technology has definitely grown, which has led to me wanting to understand what I'm talking about, how I'm helping customers, which is how it started. I can say I'm still quite green, but it's definitely improved. I work with a great team of experts and I loved hearing how they talk. And it even led me to starting to do my own AWS partner sales accreditation I did. I'm going to work towards the Azure fundamentals. So just really working on better understanding technology further. Okay.
Thank you. Hi. So I have never known what I wanted to do ever, which is a bit useless. Sorry, boss. So I was, a geek at school. So I loved maths, I loved physics, I loved sciences. And I didn't know what to do. So I kind of thought, right, I'll just focus on those things. I kind of, did the standard maths, physics, chemistry, further maths at A level, and then was like, oh, I'll go and do maths at university. And it was all very, and as awesome as that was, it was almost too many doors. It was too open. Like people were like, oh, you could be anything. And I'm like, yeah, I can be anything. What am I going to be? And I had no idea, absolutely no clue. So I thought, while I'm thinking about it, I'll become a teacher. So I became a maths teacher, and 15 years later, I decided, right, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I was continually looking throughout that whole time as well. But I was given a lot of opportunities in my job, kind of leading departments and kind of working with leadership team. I became an advanced skills teacher. I said yes to everything, which always helps. So I kind of had a lot of opportunity to do lots of kind of varied work. But in the end, I just needed to do something different. Teaching is quite stressful. I'm sure a lot of jobs are, but for me, it was just a bit too much. It changed a lot over those 15 years as well. Kids are crazy these days. Lovely, but just like, and I loved doing what I did, but I also didn't love doing it. So I just kind of needed to do something. So for the last, 6 years, I've been looking at how to get out of teaching, which actually is really difficult to do. But I've looked at, whether I could be in HR, whether I could be a product manager, whether I could do an accountancy, whether I could do this and that and this. And I'd go and do, I join a little online group and I do the course that's free and I do this and do this. And about a month later, I go, oh God, that's boring. I don't want to do that either. And I was like, well, I'll stick with teaching for another while. And then last December, I stumbled, as I did every couple of months, on something new. Okay, I'll discover this. Python. All right, I'll just start learning about this. And I became obsessed. And I just loved it. And there was no part of me that got bored or didn't enjoy it. And I used to come home and, do all the planning and the marking and all the boring bit. And then I'd go do extra voluntary work of trying to build my Python skills. And I just thought it was amazing. And then after a couple of months, I was like, wow, I still like this. This is still awesome. I wonder if I could get a job doing this. Imagine doing this for your day job. That'd be brilliant. So I discovered that there was these things called analysts, and you could actually do that. You could study data, and obviously being a maths geek, love a bit of data, love studying data, seeing a pattern, exploring kind of storytelling it. So I was just like, oh my goodness, there's people out there that get paid to do this really fun, awesome stuff. I kind of put a lot of effort in. If you're completely learning something new, I'd never stepped out of a classroom, basically my whole life. And so I had to kind of build up my skills as much as I could in Python. I took online learning courses. I did the Udemy and the Academy and the Code Academy and all these other things and Kaggles and all the rest of it. And I just built up my skills slowly, because I had a day job as well. And then I decided, right, that's it. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to force myself to do this. And that was a big jump, and I've got family, and it was kind of very daunting and stuff. It was a bit scary, but yeah, that was absolutely fine. I was completely convinced this was going to be it. So I got to summer and I was like, oh, now what? So I was like, brilliant, I've got loads more time to actually study and kind of practice my Python and look for jobs. So I spent quite a while searching for jobs, sending out CVs and things. Nothing, just nothing. And I was like, wow, okay, having an awesome CV as a teacher just doesn't cut it. So I spent a couple of weeks removing the word teacher from my teaching CV, bearing in mind I'd done nothing else for 15 years. But the amount of transferable skills we have is incredible. And actually, that's all people care about. And then I sent that out. Had a little bit more interest, but not much, to be honest, until a friend said to me, oh, I think I know someone who actually is looking for a data analyst. Why don't I put you in contact? So I sent this guy an email and I was like, oh my goodness, I hear you've got this job going. I'd be really interested. Here's my CV that doesn't say teaching anywhere, but I was a teacher, just so you know. But I have all these transferable skills. Look at me. And he's like, well, we employed for that job already. Sorry, we're not looking for that role anymore. And I was like, oh, gutted. And he's like, but we'll have a chat anyway. So we had a chat, and that chat turned into, oh, come meet the team. So I met the team, and that chat turned into, oh, let's do a technical interview. And I was like, what just happened? I was just like, that was amazing. Yeah. And so that technical interview turned into a job offer, and I have been doing that job for 6 months now. Hence, my boss is very happy. They're sitting front and center. So yeah, I am now a data and analytics consultant, and that is my day job, and I am absolutely loving it. And yeah, it's just fantastic. And in our role, we do lots of different things because it's a small company. There's just 5 of us. We work from home. We kind of meet up every so often if we need support. There's a lot of support. These guys are awesome. And I would say that even if they weren't in the room. But yeah, we take projects on right from the beginning through. So it's not as if, oh, I only do this. You take on a project, you meet the client, you discover their data, you clean it like nothing ordinary, and then you analyze it, you do your models, you do whatever, and then you present back to the client. So it's like a whole big thing. So it's a complete dream job for me. I'm very lucky to have it. So thank you very much. But it's all about getting out there, being, taking that step if you need to, and building the community. Because if my friend hadn't said to me, oh, I think I know someone, because I didn't have anyone in this industry whatsoever. I couldn't rely on someone else to get me that talk, to meet that person, to get that job. So it's all about building the community. That's the big thing I would recommend. So well done for being here, because you've taken a big step.
Wow, I don't know where to go after that. That was really good. Okay, I think I was a bit more traditional, maybe. I always wanted to program. I was like one of those kids that was a bit of a geek when I was like 12, 13 and learned how to program really, really young age. So I was always writing games and doing little bits and pieces. Obviously thought I was going to get good A-levels and go to university, but I totally fucked them up completely. Probably because I was drinking too much and probably writing games too much. But I ended up just about scraping into a HND BTEC. Really enjoyed that. So I learned to program more than I did a degree. Ended up working in a little company in Brighton teaching or learning about kind of financial instruments, still programming effectively. Then moved to the City of London doing finance stuff for about, 12, 13 years, and really starting programming, then project management, so kind of looking after bigger programs of work and kind of supporting other developers. Ended up at a company called Lehman Brothers, which was terrible when I was there, and then they went bust, which was like even worse. So I lost my job, and I was like, I don't know, what do I do now? And I was looking for another job in London, and then I got offered or saw this job for a little web development agency in Brighton of like about 10 people. And they were like way, way less money, but it would have meant I'd be home. I would have been working like 7 hours a day instead of 18 hours a day. I ended up rolling a dice, and I said, right, 1, 2, 3, I'd take the job in Brighton. 4, 5, 6, I'd stay in London. And it came up, and as soon as I rolled it, it came up as a 5, which was the London job. And I just thought, I want 2 out of 3. And as soon as I thought that, I was like, yeah. So took the Brighton job. It was terrible. It was an awful web agency. Didn't have a clue what they were doing. But I learned quite a lot from there, and I met some people, and we'd go down the pub in the night and say, we could do it better. And then after a bit of time, they closed down, and we were like, okay, why don't we just start our own company? We'll be a startup. We'll do Facebook for dogs or some amazing startup that will make us rich. Never quite came up with a startup idea, but then we got some work and just became an agency. And we grew that from 3 of us originally started it, and we grew it to about 50 people over about 10 years, I guess, which is really good fun. And it taught me loads about all sorts of the business, from like programming to architecture I did all the finance stuff. I did lots of the sales stuff, hiring people. So we probably hired 70 people over that 10 years. One of the things that taught me is, in the beginning, I was like, well, obviously you want people with degrees and experience, and it's really hard to get people with degrees and experience. And after a while, I was like, well, don't we just try interviewing some other people? And we've hired some really amazing people, from kind of 16-year-olds that, like I wasn't at 16, that wanted to program, to a harpist, professional harpist that wanted to change career, to somebody that was in the army for years. And it's really taught me it's really important to get a really wide range of people to work with you. And that's been really good fun to kind of get people to join and go with them on a journey as they kind of grow. So now I'm kind of partly, I still own the company DabApps, and then we got bought out by a kind of fast moving startup last year. So I'm running engineering IT for them as well, and then I'm doing DabApps kind of part time. So Katrina, who's the new MD, should have been here today, but she's got COVID, so I kind of got thrown in. But yeah, that's about my story.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Can everyone? Can everyone hear me when I talk? Am I coming? Okay. Thank you. Amazing stories, 4 different stories. But there were some real common themes there that I heard about passion for your subject and absolutely loving what you do. And then to a certain extent, taking a chance and putting yourself out there and building a community and all these great things that we've been talking about. Such great stories. Got a question for you, then maybe we'll throw it out to the audience. I know when you're first into a role, you can feel what they call imposter syndrome, or kind of like, oh my God, everyone knows more than me and all this sort of stuff. Can you just tell us a little bit about sort of how that felt for you, what helped you, and just some advice for people starting out in the sector?
I'll go first because I've got my mic.
Yeah.
I won't dominate. The first role that I took in London was a contracting job. So you get paid per hour, and they wanted a C and SQL developer, and I knew nothing about any of it. And I can remember, like, okay, I get paid so much an hour. If I go to the toilet for 15 minutes, I've earned like £5 because I just knew nothing. But I was there for 3.5 years in the end, and I learned so much. It's just about trying things, and as long as you've got supportive people around you, you can learn a lot on the job and do things quite quickly. So yeah, definitely trying that was a good thing I did.
Just to add in, like, I would say, don't be daunted that there's always going to be, like wizards in the industry and all that stuff. And when I started at Microsoft, I was absolutely bricking it, thinking that everyone's going to be like subject matter experts and everything. We're going to get found out, imposter syndrome. Still get imposter syndrome all the time. I think, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? But, you just kind of settle into a rhythm, and you just got to be confident in yourself, really, because IT is such a massive subject. And we were talking before this that, when I started out, it was just IT, the subject, but you can go into any specialism like data, security, AI. I'm from an infrastructure background, which is kind of old school building blocks, but there's so many different paths that you can go in, specialize in, and just don't be daunted by, people judging you about, not knowing something, because nobody knows everything in IT. It's just where everyone is learning. Every day is a new learning day. So just feel that confidence, I'd say.
I would echo that it does feel a bit daunting at the beginning. I was in technical calls where we'd have the engineers that really knew what they were speaking about, saying all types of wonderful words. I think for me is I would turn that kind of negative into a positive in capturing what that meant and those words, and then taking it off and Googling and learning. And it kind of motivated me to learn more. And then I'll go into another call and I'll be like, I understood that. I get that now. And I think that was a really nice experience. Also, just remember, it's your journey. I think I was given this advice actually on one of the cloud meetups recently when we were talking about exams, and everyone's journey is very, very different. And I think you can see things on LinkedIn about certifications someone might have got, and you think, oh, I've not got that. Does that make me less? Or it really is your own individual journey. So just remember that.
I still don't really know what's going on. I've only been in 6 months, and the first 3 to 4 months, I was literally just completely in over my head. I felt from going to kind of a very well-to-do position, feeling like I had a lot of authority, obviously, as a teacher. I had, the respect of my colleagues that kind of came to me to ask for help, and now I was just like, I knew nothing. And it kind of shattered me very much, kind of having all that knowledge and then having no knowledge. But once I accepted that, once I realized that, yeah, this is just where I'm at now, it's kind of, it is new. You've just got to deal with it. And don't stop learning. So continue to look it up, find out what's going on, explore what that means, discover it yourself and ask for help. I've been very open, probably a bit too honest with my team, going, I don't really get this, but they're super supportive and they're really awesome. And people love to help. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean? So ask for the help, and whether it be in a team or on Slack or, in a community, people want to help. It's inherent in us to want to provide support to people. So, and they love it. They love helping. So, just ask for help. And nobody's ever going to say, oh, what's wrong with you? It's just, yeah, it'd be good. So just keep on going, keep on learning. Google's your friend. Google is your friend, very much so. Just Google everything, you'll find something. And you'll notice a lot of other people do that as well, no matter how many years they've been in the industry. So,
yeah, I think one thing that I've learned is it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. I went on so many customer calls in various jobs where they'd ask me a question about how to do something or what's the answer to this. And, you know, I was frantically Googling while I was on a call to somebody saying, you know, what's the answer to this and all that stuff. It's absolutely fine to say, I don't know that. You learn, and then you come back. And I think what surprised me is that people are more than acceptant to that, and they see the human in you. So you don't feel that you have to be this like superstar person. Everyone's human. You've just got to be honest and not try to be something that you're not. You want to add anything? Or?
I know exactly how you feel. It was, yeah, for a while there, I was very devastated that I wasn't getting anywhere, and I'm very frustrated. But I think you just have to manage your expectations as well. You have to go, look, this is new. I'm doing something completely different. You know, you've got to give yourself time. It's not going to happen overnight, or if it does, wow, well done. You know, fluke. But it's a little bit of luck, and it's a little bit of being at the right place at the right time, and it's a little bit of, you know, getting yourself into that situation. So the more I could say is just get out there, like things like tonight, get to know people, get involved, and someone will then at some point say to you, oh, actually, yeah, and it'll hopefully go from there. So don't give up, because it will happen. It just, you know, the time hasn't come yet, but it will. Don't worry. Yeah.
I think I would just say be really honest as well. If you can do something, great. If you can't, that's fine too. But be honest about it, because you will. If you lie about something, you'll get found out in the end. And in that job I just talked about, I can remember being interviewed, and it's like, do you know C? No. Do you know this? No. Do you know this? No. And I thought that was going to be it. And the guy just got up and he said, I'm just going to get my boss. And his boss, this guy just came over and just said, right, shook my hand, right, you snap Monday. I have no idea quite what he saw in me, but it worked. But maybe because I just said no so much. But yeah, just being honest, I think really helps.
Thank you very much. Just a final thing to add, because you great comments, all that. I think the only thing is it's always an opportunity. So don't forget, sometimes if the cover letter and the emails aren't working, or, you know, when you're submitting the applications, sometimes a chat with your friend or coming to an event like this is all networking, and it's all doors that could open. So just change up the approach, maybe surround yourself with people that are also in a similar situation and looking for that help.
Just to add to that as well, there was a study just about opportunities and not feeling that you shouldn't go for them. There was a study that showed that women were far less likely to apply for a job where they didn't meet all the criteria than a man. And other than showing that men are just total blaggers, I'd say that you know, what that shows is that you really should go for these opportunities, that you don't always have to have everything. And like these guys have been saying, it's about what you bring, your own personal attributes that you bring, that's come through, I think, from all four of these guys. That what got them their opportunity was their personal attributes, not necessarily their experience and their skills. Go for the opportunities, I think, is the message that I'm hearing. Is there any other questions?
So I've got two questions, one for Laura specifically, and then the other one just general for. The second question is a bit difficult because I know none of us got a silver ball, so we don't. So the first one for Laura is, you obviously said you were working full-time as a teacher before you did your Python. How long did it take you before you started your Python, your tech journey? How long was it? A couple of months, a year, 2 years? Learn how to code, get all your Python done and stuff like that. And the second one is obviously everything with AI now, ChatGPT. I know it's difficult to answer, and I'm not expecting any answers. What will be, obviously, I think the concern for a lot of people, regardless of what industry you're in, is what is a good skill to learn that AI would not. It's a bit difficult, but yeah, how can I word it? Skills or coding, language that in 10, 20 years, maybe because of AI and because of what we're all seeing now. Sorry, I can't be said. Yes, yes.
Is AI taking
I know
all our
it's a bit
jobs?
difficult. It's a bit more difficult to answer, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, I know, a bit difficult, but what is your opinions,
Thank you. So yeah, as I say, I started a year and a half ago learning Python, and I was just doing that for a few hours, a few evenings a week, and then so I did that solidly for about 8 to 10 months. And then I started looking for jobs. I started looking a lot earlier than that, but I didn't feel I had any of the skills, I couldn't even get that 60%. I felt I had zero of the skills. So it was like, okay, I've got to do this a lot more. But I find doing like Kaggle competitions and, making a portfolio, I then didn't feel like such an imposter because I had something to show. But I'm still learning very much. I'm very thankful I've got a job that I can learn on top of, and versus what I was learning in those kind of Code Academy and kind of tutorials taking you through, and even the Kaggles where something's a little bit different. I learn a lot on the job now, which is great, but at least it's doing exactly what the clients want. So every day is kind of a bit different. So yeah. So it's been exactly 18 months since I started coding. And I've been in my job just 6 months. So, yeah. I have no idea about the future, sorry.
It's a really hard one to call. ChatGPT is very in the now. It's in the media a lot, but it's one of literally hundreds of thousands of different things that you can do with IT and technology. So there's a lot of hype around it, but I wouldn't focus on the hype. I would say try and understand as broad a spectrum as possible and see what piques your interest. In the meantime, I'd encourage you to do like fundamentals training as much as you can. So get your kind of, if like cloud is your thing, I'm obviously biased because I work in cloud, but you can do like the Azure or the AWS or the GCP fundamental certifications. All of the training's free. You get a free practice exam, and it will teach you things like cloud networking, the super high level basics and the terminologies and things like that, just so you could hold a conversation with different people. And I think the exam's like 69 quid. And all of the free learning materials are out there. It wouldn't take you long to get that. And actually, it's that foot in the door of, that part of the fundamentals was data lake or something like that. That's really cool. What you were saying about how you got into Python, it's like it piques your interest. And then you can kind of go down that journey once you get a broader understanding of different services that are available. So my advice would be do some of those easy to grab training materials. You don't even have to do the certification if you don't want to, but it just, opens your mind to what there is. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds.
So we're doing quite a bit of AI at the moment, mainly because our funders are really pushing us to do it. I don't think it's going to completely revolutionize the world as much as people say it is. We're using it to write automated testing and help with QA. When you actually use it to write code, it's not always as good as it looks. I think there's a long way to go. And you think about how many systems you use on a daily basis that are completely rubbish. You want to do a meter reading, or you want to book a restaurant, all that stuff is still junk. So there's ways to make things much, much better. And I don't think AI is always the way to do that. For things to learn that we use, when we founded the company, we started using Python. That was 12 years ago, and it's still probably the biggest used programming language. So that's been really good. Understanding databases is still really important if you're doing that kind of programming thing. Or if you're not technical, being a kind of project manager, whether it's really specializing in a product or kind of managing the work that happens, that hasn't changed much in 20 or 30 years. And I think that'll still be needed in 20 or 30 years' time.
Agreed. What they said. I think it's a difficult one to know, isn't it? I think from a skills perspective, whenever there's a new technology, the people who come out on top of the people who learn to leverage that technology to the best use of teams and others. and there'll always be a human interaction with these things. I heard another software developer talking about the rise of prompt engineering and actually working out how to leverage this AI to be faster and better and so on. I spoke to a design company, and he said at first all their engineers were really scared of what this was doing, because is it going to replace all their designers? But they've embraced it, and actually now they're using it to create amazing stuff really quickly. So I think from the perspective of someone coming in, maybe that's the way to view it, as about how can I make the best use of it rather than being afraid of it. But there will be change when then. I think that's inevitable. Any other questions for these guys? Nico.
Yeah, I was wondering about your opinions on portfolios for programmers, because obviously for like artists and probably UX designers and stuff, they're quite important. But yeah, I was wondering how important you think they are. If they're helpful. This is just a CV.
So yeah, if it's a developer who's applying for us, we would, if they've got a GitHub profile, we would ask to see that. And it is sometimes really useful to look at what they've done, what kind of experience they've got. We don't do code tests because I hate that kind of thing. We kind of chat to people and figure out what they know. But having some good examples you can run through and get them to explain things is pretty important just for that kind of technical role. So yeah, it can be really handy. I think if you want to be a designer or a front-end programmer, yeah. But if you just want to program, you just want to be a back-end developer, then just link to your GitHub. That's probably good enough. Or link to some open source projects that you've done a bit of work on. That's more important than, yeah, how it looks.
Just to add to that, I think it's important to build your brand as well as you become, recognized and everything else. The old school way was you make a website, you do blogs and write about things. You can still do that, but contribute to things. A lot of, the developers, the stuff that I follow, they're very prolific on Twitter and things like that. They obviously don't have to do that way, but at least build a brand, and people can search for you, and it's difficult putting yourself out there a little bit, but it helps employers kind of look you up, and they will do that, to see what you've done, what you're interested in, some of the stuff that you've contributed to in the world.
So I'm going to look at it from the other point of view, because I obviously don't employ people on a, basis every year. For me, I find it really useful to have somewhere to keep my stuff and just to be able to showcase. So I find it really useful because I was able to go, look what I've done. I've actually done something. And instead of just following along with tutorials, and it was all very guided, and you do this, and then you write this, and then you write this, you got to kind of showcase your own thoughts and your own exploratory analysis and things. So I find that very useful. And then I was very able to say, oh, look, yes, come and talk to me. Here is my GitHub. And it was kind of just, showcasing. So from my point of view, it was really useful. Also, when I look back now, I go, oh my goodness, look how much I've come on. So it's really good to show your own development and kind of give yourself that little, yay, look at me. I am learning. I am getting better. This is working. So yeah, for a personal point of view, I think it's a really good idea.
Thank you. I think we had one more question for this gentleman here.
Question for Laura, obviously. No. Just first of all, after everything Laura said about, I don't know what I'm doing still, she's fantastic. So I think I need to add that to everything that's been said tonight. But question for everybody, because talking to people when they entered the room tonight, there's a lot of people here that are trying to get into tech or have just started in tech. So if you look back to the start of your journey, is there anything that you would have done differently, either in your journey in getting into tech or at the start of your journey when you've just got into tech?
Who wants to start?
Thanks for that. No, I don't think I would have done. Only because, and I guess for reference, the background that I came from in infrastructure is it's always been there, right? It's like being the plumber in IT. You plug things in and you make things connect to things and you store things in boxes and things like that. But at the same time with that, I'm now trying to make myself more well-rounded because IT is so many different areas. So I've done things like my data fundamentals and AI fundamentals and security fundamentals. And in hindsight, I wish I hadn't have been so tunnel vision about this is what I do now and this is what I enjoy, thinking a bit more retrospectively about how the industry will change. I mean, I know nothing about programming and AI. And actually, I wish that I kind of would, because I'd be able to hold more conversations with developers that I end up selling to and helping them, deploy solutions, but they end up quickly losing me in conversation. So going back to what I was saying earlier about always learning, I wish I would have split my time between developing what I do at the moment, but also trying some of the other roads a bit earlier on, if that makes sense.
I will be upfront and honest. Before I started my role, I tried to go through doing my Azure fundamentals. When I was doing all the training, I found this a bit overwhelming because I hadn't applied anything or been in the environment where we were talking about this on a daily basis. So that is one thing I may actually regret at the beginning. I feel a lot more confident talking about it now since I've had some time to practice. It might not be for everyone, but don't feel potentially you have to jump right in the deep end, because for me that was a deep end because I wasn't technical or talking about it on a daily basis. What I wish I would have done is spent some more time on the basics, just watching YouTube videos. There's so much out there. They're really, really helpful. And even just industry news, what's going on, what's a hot topic, because again, it's great just to be able to have those conversations with customers.
One thing I find really, really helpful was these groups, these Silicon Brighton groups and kind of all these sort of groups. And unless my boss had forced me to run one of them, I wouldn't even know they existed. Well, so they run Brighton R, and then obviously because I'm a Python coder, they're like, brilliant, you can run Brighton Python. So I took that on, not having a clue what was going on, not even just didn't really know what Silicon Brighton did or that, anything about the community. Bit shell-shocked to begin with, I must say. But now it's just so nice having this community. So you can chat to people, you're on the Slack, you can hear the news. There's a job board on there. You always know when someone's looking for jobs. It's really important to build this community. So well done. Your first step is you're here. Join in. That's what I would say more to kind of, if I hadn't have been in the position to be involved in this group, I would have been worse off, I must say. I think having that connection and having this community has been hugely beneficial. So, yeah.
This isn't really technical, but I think the thing that I wish I had the courage to do sooner was to start my own company, because it was like I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had a mortgage, I had kids, and it was like, I'm going to go bankrupt next week. But in retrospect, I wish I did it 10 years earlier, because it's really good fun. But don't tell that to anyone that works for me, because I don't want them to leave.
Thank you, guys. Any more questions? No, we're going to try and finish at past, weren't we? But go ahead.
One question for Ryan. Oh, no, it's just a quick question.
It's just so we can hear online.
Okay. Yeah. I'm in a similar position to you, as you were saying in your story, how you were like, should I learn about cars or tech? And my stepdad, he's involved with cars, but he's like, go learn tech. So I was just, anyways, just wanted to ask, do you still love cars?
I'm probably going to share more than I should now. Yes, and it's almost like a passion that I spend all my time with cars, right? I've owned lots and lots of cars and spent way too much money on cars over the time that I've been employed. I still have this mental battle of, should I go into a career in the automotive industry? Because that's like what I feel my passion is. But at the same time, there's always that worry about, will it ruin it for me? You know, it's like going to watch a band or something, and then you try and play the instrument and it's really hard or something like that. I kind of said, right, IT is where my strength and my skills are in my personality. I tried doing mechanics. I'm absolutely rubbish at it. So I guess, yes, I still have that passion, but I've kept it as a hobby. My dream job, if I'm completely honest, would be doing something with IT in class, something like that. So maybe the future, that would be the only thing that would tempt me away from what I'm doing now. But yeah, for now, I'll keep doing IT.
Go for the cars.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
They are, yeah, especially with electric cars, and it's all a big computer. So yeah, definitely, I think they're converging very, very quickly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, I think we're out of time. Thank you so much for your insights and information and feedback for the guys. So much great stuff there. What I've heard, just to try and summarize it, is go for your passion. Don't be afraid to be honest and say you don't understand and ask for help. Don't feel that everybody else knows everything, because they don't. And keep on learning. Yeah, just fabulous advice. Thank you so much for my four lovely guests. Can I have a round of applause, please? And a huge thanks for you guys for coming out this evening as well. And yeah, you've taken your first step in building a community. Well done. You've now got 20 minutes or so before we have to maybe get booted out. There's some beers, and feel free to have a chat. Make sure you chat to these guys and chat to each other, and we'll let you know when the next one is. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for coming.